Toronto Star. I'm Reggie Mudler, and this matters. If you believe the reports, this is the sound of the resistance in America right now. That's Boy With Love by BTS, which also features the pop singer Halsey. This past weekend, Korean pop music fans and users of the social networking app TikTok took credit for sabotaging the attendance of Donald Trump's rally in Tulsa. It's not the first time they have decided to flex their muscle online. And the question right now is this Gen Z's great moment of political awakening? Is this the beginning of a new online movement of youth activism? And what are the potential ramifications of that? Or is this just part of being a fan right now? Is this the latest form of online slacktivism? Or, in this case, pranktivism? Sure, it had an effect, but really, it's just a bit of internet fun. The truth probably lies somewhere in the middle. And to discuss it, we are joined by Travis M. Andrews. He's an internet culture reporter at The Washington Post. He joins us to talk about this story and the rising activism of TikTok teens and K-pop stans. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
So, Travis, I think one of the things about this Tulsa rally story is that it sounds almost too good to be true. That these very web-savvy teens and Korean pop music fans put one over on the president of the United States and the Republican campaign machine. Now, the thing is, as I said, it sounds too good to be true. You did some web sleuthing. How true is it?
I think that you really hit the nail on the head when you say it sounds too good to be true. And I think that, like an awful lot of stories that sort of filter their way down to Twitter and 280 characters, it's been a little warped. I will say that I think a good bit of it is true. I think that a lot of young activists, both K-pop fans and kids on TikTok, inflated the number of people expected to attend the rally. I am not as convinced that they affected the number of people who actually attended the rally, which, as we know, was far below what the Trump campaign claimed it would be. It was about 6,200 people, not 1 million.
The White House is currently in denial mode. Can you tell us a little bit about how these web-savvy youngsters, or at least these TikTok users, pulled this off? And then the other question that follows is, do you think this is a wake-up call for all of us to be paying more attention to TikTok?
Sure. I will give a little bit about the background of how this came to be and then what I think it could mean. So when Brad Pascal, Trump's campaign manager, first tweeted that there was going to be a campaign event, the first rally he's had really since coronavirus has begun, immediately there was kind of, backlash on Twitter, online. And one of the things that happened was a K-pop fan tweeted that we should all sign up and not go. Because the way it works is there was a link that you could click and say, I want 2 quote-unquote tickets. And you then supposedly had 2 tickets. But the thing was, there weren't actually tickets to the event. It was first come, first serve. So there were essentially unlimited quote-unquote tickets. And quickly thereafter, a woman named Mary Jo Law posted on TikTok, someone without that many followers. She posted a video on TikTok telling people to do the same. Let's all sign up for this rally and then not show up. And won't that be great? We'll really stick it to the Trump administration. And immediately it went viral. That video has been seen more than 2 million times. And many, many TikTokers and K-pop fans in their own respective worlds were signing up to go to this rally with no intentions of going. As a result, we can't say exactly how much impact they had, but it was not difficult for them to sign up for the rally. And so logic stands that many of them did. 4 days later, Pascal came out and said, hey, more than 1 million people have requested to come to this rally. And as we know, the day in question, only 6,200 people came. And I think there's something to that. I think they embarrassed the president, and I think they really harness social media in a way that we're going to see more and more, which is it's very easy to spread this sort of activism online. If you want to call it that, some people are calling it a prank or a troll. We don't fully know what all these TikTokers and K-pop fans, what their intent was, to sow chaos, to make a political point. But we do know they were able to do it quickly and easily. And I think that's going to play a big role potentially in the upcoming election.
The interesting thing that you just brought up was the idea of intentions. And I think that this is one of the things that I think people are trying to get an idea about. Is this potentially the birth of some sort of cohesive movement? This is one of these things where there are a few precedents. I mean, K-pop stans have already taken credit for messing around with a Dallas police app that was supposed to help police track protesters. They also got White Lives Matter trending, but instead of they co-opted that hashtag with pictures of their favorite K-pop idols. It seems they are picking their spots here. Now, the question is yes, is this something that potentially could be a cohesive movement? Or is it, and you alluded to the idea of prank, and the term that I like to use is pranktivism. Was this, yes, they did something that had a political benefit, but really it was more about the fun?
I think that is a very tricky question to answer, as I should know, because I spent the morning in a meeting with my editors talking about this very thing. It's very hard to say. I will separate the two. Within the K-pop fandom is global, and there are certainly various factions and various viewpoints within that global community. A lot of South Korean K-pop fans actually are against the trolling of President Trump because they feel like he could potentially help with relations with North Korea. Whereas a lot of American K-pop fans, who are young people who like pop music, who are naturally inclined to dislike Trump, might be trying to make a political point and might be doing pranktivism. It's funny, and we get to make this guy we don't like angry. Great, but I do think that K-pop has the opportunity to create those kind of organized movements, to become more cohesive. TikTok's a little bit of a different story. TikTok is enormous. It's where Gen Z spends an awful lot of their time. But one of the things that makes it so powerful is how decentralized it is. The movements that happen on TikTok tend to be very, very organic. And so I think with that in mind, it's difficult for there to be that kind of cohesion. As with anything, K-pop fans, TikTokers, there's no monolith. There are many different viewpoints within each one. TikTok, for example, has an alt-right problem. There are a lot of alt-right activists, I suppose you would call them, alt-right trollers, who are using TikTok to spread their messages. Pizzagate is still very popular on TikTok. So I think it's difficult to talk about any of it monolithically, but I do think that there's power there, and I wonder if certain factions within TikTok and within the K-pop fandom are starting to realize that power. Because I think if they do, and they begin figuring out a way to use it cohesively, it could really play a role in the upcoming election, for one.
I think that this is a perfect example of them potentially flexing that power. But I find this interesting. I've played around on TikTok. Why do you think the fact that it's so decentralized gives it power? I mean, doesn't it just make it a mess to someone old like me?
Absolutely. I think it is one of TikTok's powers is that come in and sort of a political candidate couldn't come into TikTok and suddenly harness the power of TikTok, if that makes any sense. The power is that it's decentralized. So people who generally share the same viewpoints are probably seeing each other's videos and sharing each other's videos. But unlike other social media like Instagram or particularly YouTube, there aren't necessarily leaders. Influencers do exist on TikTok, but they don't wield the same, I would say, power that they do on a YouTube. Someone with, as we saw with the Trump rally, with only a few followers can suddenly have their video seen 2 million times without doing much more than putting the video out and it just organically being shared around. That doesn't quite happen as much on, say, a YouTube.
How important do you think it is that Gen Z basically has their own space and is now finding ways to sort of speak in a unique way?
I think it's very important. I think that Gen Z has a real power that can be harnessed by having their own space. I was speaking to Tim Fullerton, who's a former served in the Obama administration and also served on his campaign, and he was telling me that he believes that if Gen Z, a group that's notoriously difficult for political figures to reach, if Gen Z can harness their own power on, say, TikTok and spread the word to go vote, say, in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, that they could really turn the election. If you get that youth vote to go up 1 or 2%, which Fullerton believes could happen using TikTok, it could swing the entire election. So I think that there's an awful lot of power there. The question is, will it be utilized in that fashion?
What do you think the outcomes of the rally success are? And the question is how do you think it potentially will politically embolden some of the users that got a kick and found success with this?
I think it's twofold. I think users on TikTok and maybe K-pop fans will notice this potential power. We can use this. We can utilize this. So maybe let's start thinking about how to do this strategically. On the other hand, I could also see it emboldening, say, the Trump administration. They have come out immediately and said, this is fake news, this didn't happen, that anyone reporting this is insult, insult, insult. But I could definitely see Trump, who has been claiming falsely for a long time that mail-in ballots are easily made fraudulent, things like that, taking this example and saying, look, if a bunch of kids on the internet can bomb my rally, then voting by mail isn't safe. I could see him making that argument, which would be very dangerous. So I really could see this going in either or both ways.
I think this is the other interesting point. It feels to me that, at least in the previous election in particular, it's been the right wing and the alt-right that have been a bit better with social media. These recent outcomes, particularly with TikTok supporting Black Lives Matter, it seems that there is a bit more of a maybe left-wing or social justice bent to some of these movements that is capturing the youth. Is that fair to say?
I think that's extremely fair to say. And I think it spreads beyond even TikTok or Twitter. I recently interviewed these two young women, 22 and 23 years old, who created a Google Doc about how to be an ally to the Black community. And this Google Doc received hundreds of thousands of views. It's been turned into a website. Companies are using this document in their HR hiring practices. And that's two young women creating a Google Doc to share their thoughts, and people on social media taking that and really harnessing that power. So I do think that we're seeing activists and young people on the left becoming a lot more savvy in the way that people on the far right have been for some time.
I don't know if we can dub this a catchy term like hippies, but are we seeing the birth of a new form of online social activism? And is it something that you think perhaps has legs?
I think it does. I think we're in a period, this change is happening before our eyes, and it will be interesting to see if this sort of online activism will continue, but we have no reason to think that it won't, especially since it clearly has been effective. You alluded to this earlier, but one of the things that K-pop fans did during the Black Lives Matter protest is when the Dallas police set up a website where they were asking people to report protesters that they saw so they could later use that information potentially for arrests and things of that nature. K-pop fans immediately swarmed that portal to the point that it crashed. They recently swarmed the hashtag White Lives Matter, putting so many funny GIFs out there that the entire hashtag looked ridiculous. It became completely moot and completely ruined what the kind of alt-right people who were putting that out were trying to do. So I think what we're seeing more and more is sort of these prank activism, whatever you want to call them, really increasing in size and scale to the point where we have the President of the United States potentially saying incorrect information because of them. So I think that as they continue to see what they can do, and I think it'll be, some trial and error probably going forward, but I do think we're seeing kind of a new world of online activism, and it'll be really interesting to see what happens over the next few months.
What I find really interesting about their moves is that, this is classic cyber warfare. This is denial of service attacks, really, using your large numbers to overwhelm, say, a hashtag or a service, or in this case, a rally. The parallels are there, only the biggest difference is you're talking about BTS fans or Monsta X fans, right?
No, exactly. It's a lot of people who I think previously felt, when you're talking about young people or we're talking about young pop fans, people who probably didn't feel like they could really make any kind of a difference, that they could really make change, realizing that actually, no, the power is within the thing that they never considered powerful. And that might sound paradoxical, but the way that K-pop fans, for example, became activists or pranktivists or whatnot was by first learning how to use social media to promote their favorite artists and make their favorite artist trend. And sort of once they realized they could do that, they realized they could do other things. And I think that's really interesting. But yeah, I think it's a lot of people are realizing that they're not as powerless as they might have felt and figuring out how to do that in a very almost sci-fi feeling way.
Oh, absolutely. And I think you make a great point about the idea of power coming from the powerless. I am sure that there are a majority of older people that think that TikTok, all it is a place that viral dance crazes go, right? So, I mean, I think the thing now is that this is going to cause a lot of people to reevaluate this. What do you think that we have to look forward to? I mean, I know we were talking previously, and I think that one of the things that you mentioned that I think this is absolutely right before is some sort of a voting challenge around the actual election that obviously could have an effect. What type of stuff do you think we're going to see?
I think that is a great example. There's no, this is pure speculation, but it would not shock me to see folks on TikTok. So one way it works is someone will come up with a challenge, and sometimes it's goofy. I'm fond of dog videos, and there'll be a challenge where you try to get your dog to sit while you put a piece of sausage in front of the dog and see how long it can sit there. And someone will put that video up and say, do it with your dog. And so then 100,000 more people will put that video up, and then millions will see it, and it kind of goes on like that. And it wouldn't shock me if someone said, let's do a voting challenge where you show a TikTok of you leaving the voting booth with your I voted sticker attached to your shirt. All it takes is one person putting that up, and then other people saying, oh, well, I want to get in on this. And that can quickly go viral in a way that could truly make an impact on a presidential election. So I think things like that, I think one of the benefits of TikTok being a video-based service is you can kind of challenge people to prove that they've done things. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that moving forward.
I think it's fascinating. Again, as an old guy, I think it's also really amazing to see youth get engaged, even if it is in fun ways to disrupt politics and politicians. I'm just curious, is there anything that I didn't ask that you think that we should know?
You touched on this, but I think the one thing that we're kind of circling around that is really important is TikTok in particular really is mostly, its users skew very young. They skew Gen Z. And there's something really important about having a place that is sort of unmonitored in a way. Now, more and more people like myself, journalists, are coming in and seeing this space and reporting on this space. But for the most part, this is a space that is generally, although it's public, also completely private in a completely insular world. And I think that allows this generation to really kind of create these movements without people noticing until they've already gained a lot of steam. And I think there's something really powerful about that.
Well, it's something that we're definitely going to be watching for now. Travis, I want to thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Travis M. Andrews is an internet culture writer with the Washington Post. That's it for today. Thanks so much for joining us. This Matters is hosted and produced by me, Raju Mudler, Adrian Chung, and Saba Etisaz. Produced and mixed by Sean Pattenden, and our director of programming is JP Foso. Our show theme music is by So Called, and our episode music is by Mike DeAngelis. We want to hear what stories matter to you. Please send us comments, questions, or ideas to thismatters@thestar.ca. Please consider supporting the journalism the Toronto Star newsroom does at thestar.com. And don't forget to subscribe to This Matters on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Let's talk soon.